Hi folks, welcome to another edition of our Baxter Center for Science Education video and meetup series, where we share ideas on how to have our students learn at home virtually. So we're sharing ideas today about virtual labs and resources that you can find online. I'm Mary Clark. I teach a biotech forensics elective. So what I'm going to share with you today are some sites that I already use with my students in the classroom and how I'm pivoting to be able to use it for learning at home. Cool. So I am using Google Meet right now, and that's the platform that my school district likes us to use, and I am just recording this session. Cool. All right, so what I have are a couple links that I want to walk through. So Learn Genetics is from University of Utah. This is a great site that has lots of different information on here for biology teachers and for a bunch of electives. So if you have an anatomy elective or a neuroscience elective at your school, or even AP biology or AP environmental science, you can use this. I like going to science tools and virtual labs for my biotech class, and I'm going to talk about DNA microarrays. This is something that I'm not able to do as a lab experiment in the classroom, so I use this actually in the classroom to be able to teach this technique. So when you first get to this site, you're not going to see this. You're going to see a little box that says Enable Flash. You're going to click Enable Flash, and then the virtual lab is going to pop up. So this is going to walk us through a DNA microarray experiment. And it gives students different chapters to walk through. You have a dude in lab, and there's a problem. We have a ton of genes in this DNA microarray that we actually want to test. And if we did it another way, it would take a really, really, really long time for scientists to get through all of these genes. So the microarray is a technique that scientists use to get a lot of information out of one tiny little plate. And students are going to be able to walk through that. Another site that I use a lot is HHMI. So bio teachers out there, you probably know about this one. I'm going to search for microarray, and I'm going to see what pops up. And I'm going to click on this first hit about how to analyze DNA microarray data. So after they've done the Learn Genetics activity, they can come here and actually try to analyze this data. So I'm going to launch this interactive, and it's going to go through a microarray data about normal cells and tumor cells. So students can click through this, read the information, and get an idea about how microarray works. Cool. Another tip is going to be to go to Cold Spring Harbor. They have a great DNA Learning Center. What I'm going to show you today is going to be in the resources part, and it's going to be the biology animations. So I'm going to go there, and there's a ton of really great stuff in here. As you can see, a bunch of gel electrophoresis, a bunch of PCR. What I'm going to look at is this microarray right here. And what's really nice about this, it gives actual pictures of what a microarray chip is. Down here, there's a description. There's a transcript of what's going on. There are some keywords which you can have your students look up or draw pictures or have definitions for, and then there's additional info in here. So this is going to be another tool that I can use to help my students understand DNA microarrays. Cool. Forensics folks out there, have you guys heard of CSI The Experience? So this is going to be a great thing that you can use with your students. So it is based on CSI, the actual game, and it has different cases for you to go through. So case 1 is rookie training, and you can just play as a guest, which is fine. And it is going to ask you to allow for flash, which is fine. I'm going to stay. And once that flash is allowed, you can then start on the web adventure. So let's see if this works this time. Play as guest, start. And when it loads the game, you are going to be walked through the simulation with the dudes from CSI, which is kind of fun. So I am going to begin in forensics biology. This is going to give you a lab. You have Greg here who's going to guide you through, and there are all sorts of toolkits that you're going to use. So that's like the first training lab. All right, the other simulations are going to be more along the cases. So if you go to case 2, there's actually a case that you need to solve. And once it loads, it'll tell you what the situation is and what you need to do. The only thing that's a little bit fickle about this is you'll notice that I am in Internet Explorer. In Chrome, sometimes Chrome doesn't load very well. So let's go to CSI The Experience in Chrome. Sometimes it loads this, which isn't very good. So that's why I have it up in this different browser. Cool. So we have tools over here, and you are going to go through that experience with your students. Students really like this too, because you can like click things on here, and there's all sorts of activities to do. So students do have to like kind of try clicking around first before they're able to get to the next spot. Cool. So we have evidence, locations, and there. All right. So I'm going to X out of that. All right. And I also wanted to direct you to 2 YouTube channels that I go to a lot for my teaching. The first one is Mini PCR Bio. They've been doing a lot of really good webinars. Their webinars usually happen on Mondays at 2 o'clock Central Time. And they have done some live labs. For example, the PTC Taster Lab, where you test whether you are a taster or not for a bitter taste. They've done live webinars on CRISPR. They've also done live webinars on things about COVID-19 and testing and what qPCR is. They're pretty excellent. The other YouTube channel that I've been going to a lot is Biorad. So Biorad has a lot of labs that I use in my class. And what's great about this is if you go to the playlist part, let's say that at this point in time, you are going to do a lab about ELISAs. So if you're going to do an ELISA lab, they actually have 2 ELISA labs that you can check out right here. One is the giant panda problem. One is the traditional ELISA lab. I use that with a zombie apocalypse. And what they already have lined up for you is a bunch of videos on that lab. So they show you a very technical video about the experiment itself, but then they also include the background stories as well. Another great thing about looking at these YouTube channels is going to be figuring out what other channels they follow. So you can look at all of these channels to give you ideas about what else you can explore with your students. All right, what are you going to have your kids do though when they actually do these simulations? It's a lot of work to be able to put in for these virtual labs, especially we don't know if we're going to be able to use it in the future years or not. So I like to keep it as open as possible for my student responses. So this is an example of a document that I would push out in Google Classroom to my students when they're using these activities. So I'd like them to provide their answers in blue, bold text, and I ask them open-ended questions. So number 1, what activity did you complete? Name three things that you learned. What I really like to focus in on my classes is connecting one activity to the other. So connect what you learned in this simulation to an activity or lab that we did previously in the year. And then what went well and what didn't go well. This really helps me a lot as a teacher for giving directions to future classes. Great. So those are some ideas that I have for virtual learning and using these labs at home. I hope you guys join us for our virtual meetup on Thursday at 2 o'clock, and have a good one.